SJ. Welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. SJ, Estongo, Gary Fife, Jaho Jifkadas, Mvskoke Radio, Mabu Hedjidawetchkis. Welcome to our program. This week, the Citizenship Board is expanding its outreach and reaching up here and just up the road from us here.
Yes, our office is opening a Jenks River Walk, basically an extension of our office. The Omogi office is still going to be open and available for any services. But we are going to be have a presence in Jenks as well.
Is there a growing demand from people in that area to become citizens? Are you meeting a new crush of interest there?
Well, when we look at it, the numbers perspective point of this is Tulsa County alone is responsible for 16,000 of our current citizens. And 50% of the people who walk into the Omogi office for any type of reason, whether they need a replacement for new enrollment, any of the verifications that we do, 50% of those are from the service area that we're looking to serve.
All right, well, as long as we're talking about serving, what kind of services will be available? If you walk in the door and said, I need help, what can you do for me?
So anything that is done in Omogi, we'll be able to do in Jenks. That's enrollment into the tribe, relinquishment. You need a replacement for your citizenship card or your CDIB card. We'll be able to handle those matters, as well as the Indian preference letters, the Form 4432s, the Eagle Feather permit verifications, and the American Indian Graduate Center verifications. It's basically just a replica of everything that we do in Omogi will happen in Jenks as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned a topic there that I find fairly intriguing, eagle feather permits. Is that part of what you do there?
Yes, that is. That is for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department. You have to have a permit to carry eagle feathers. That's something that we do. It's a free service. You don't have to pay anything to our office. I believe there's a fee to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for the eagle feathers. From what I understand, there's a long wait time, so if you're looking to get eagle feathers, I would go ahead and get that application filled out and sent over there.
Right. Yeah, I understand the Department of Interior is kind of relaxing its rules a bit on Indian people carrying and using eagle feathers for ceremonies and for dance outfits and things like that. Have you heard much interest from people wanting to do that kind of thing?
Not specifically, no. There has been sort of an influx here lately as far as the eagle feather permits coming in to verify for the Citizenship Office, but I haven't specifically heard anything about that, no.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, well, that might be some good news, too. I'm sure there are citizens out there, other Indian people, who actually probably do possess feathers, but not the federal paperwork to go along with it. Would this kind of help them out?
Yes, from what I understand, if you're carrying an eagle feather on your person at any time and you don't have or not able to prove that you have an eagle feather permit, there is fines involved with that. So certainly, if you have an eagle feather but you don't have the permit, I would certainly look into getting the permit.
Right, so that might be something a lot of folks might want to check out. A lot of powwow dance outfits.
That's right.
All right, now as we look at citizenship, occasionally our office gets calls from folks who say, "Well, I want to get an Indian card, and when I do, what do I get for free?" It's not really a matter of freedom. You don't really get them. I mean, by treaty right and executive relationship, those benefits are paid for through our land and our blood. Now, can you give me a quick idea of what sort of benefits might become available to someone who is successful in filling out a citizenship application and becoming a citizen?
Well, I think one of the big things is that you are actually able to prove with the paperwork that you can be a Creek citizen. That's one of the big things, is you're able to, I guess, officially identify that you are a Creek citizen, you are Native American. That's one of the biggest things that I see.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's different social service programs. There's housing program through the Creek Nation. I mean, there's just numerous things, scholarship opportunities. There's so many things that the tribe is doing now, that it is a big thing to be enrolled with the Mvskoke Creek Nation.
And it's more than just cheap license plates. Okay,
Yes.
folks, if you've got one, you better, step up to the plate and take part. We do have elections coming up, so make sure you are registered. No matter who you support, make sure you take part in selecting our leadership.
That's right. I just want to
Go
make
ahead,
I just want to make a point about that. You have to be a citizen to be able to vote
Right,
in the elections. But they're two separate offices. Just because you're enrolled doesn't necessarily mean that you're enrolled to vote.
Right.
So if you're not registered to vote, pay a visit to the election board. They'll be able to help you out. There's a deadline coming up for that. I'm not for sure the exact date, but there is a deadline approaching quick to vote in the general election coming in November. So I would encourage all the citizens to, if you're not registered to vote, to pay a visit to the election board so that you can vote.
Right. Keep old John Wagner, who we had on last week, keep him busy. No, it's, while we're pitching this, I mean, it's so important. We've got selection for principal chief. I know that's kind of a warming up issue there. We have some selections for council seats. This is the leadership of the Mvskoke Creek Nation, so you have to sit down and take part. Take a look at the issues, the forums that have been available. There is information about who these folks are. If you had an old friend and that's what you're counting on, well, maybe you want to read up on some of their latest stuff to kind of help you make those decisions. Now we have, let's get back to the grand opening here. That's coming up about the middle of October, right?
That's right. We're going to have a grand opening October 15th. Starting at 10 a.m., there's going to be a ribbon cutting ceremony there at the office. We'll be there until 3 p.m. for office tours. There'll be refreshments, just to give the citizens a look at what our tribe is doing as far as our office space, where our tribal services are housed. We just want to open the doors for citizens to come in, look at the office space, and just kind of get a feel of what we're trying to do.
And what's the address?
It's 1000 Riverwalk Terrace in Jenks, Oklahoma.
Now that's in the shopping mall there, the Riverwalk?
It's not in the shopping area. There's a retail space and then there's office space. So if you're in the Riverwalk area, at the far north side of the Jenks Riverwalk location, there's 2 office buildings that's designated for office space besides the retail space. We're in the 1000 building there at the far north end of the complex. It's by the apartment complex that's there.
Okay, yeah, and that's Suite 200, correct? Second floor.
That's correct.
All right, now while you're there, you might want to take a look around. They're putting a lot of money into building this indoor golf thing, so you might want to check them out and see what's going on there.
That's right. From our location there, we can look and see the progress of the Flying T location and the River Spirit expansion.
Right.
The construction projects going on there.
Yeah, I understand they're getting a lot of stuff done on that new casino addition there. Okay, now this is to remind our listeners, the Creek Nation Citizenship Board has its grand opening for its Jenks office. That's coming up on October 15th, and it runs from 10 to 3 p.m. with the usual ribbon cutting at 10 a.m., office tours and refreshments. See if they got any fry bread. And if someone wanted to apply and fill out the paperwork, I presume they could do it then and there.
Actually, the first day to the public in Jenks is going to be October the 19th, the following Monday.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know.
The 15th there is just going to be all about the showing the office off, letting the people come and look at it. But we'll actually be open for business October the 19th.
Okay, well, I'm glad we mentioned that because we wouldn't want any people getting the wrong idea there. And
Right.
come saying, hey, I wanted to
Right,
sign up, and you say no? Okay.
Right.
All right, well, I tell you what, Andrew, I think we've pretty well worked it over unless there's something there that's coming up at the board that you want to share. Final thought?
Just a final thought. We have moved to the new citizenship cards. I know it's been 2 or 3 years, but we still have lots of people who haven't come and updated to the new citizenship card. I would encourage everybody to please do that. That's recognized as a secondary ID for the state of Oklahoma now. You can go to any pharmacy, pick up your medications with that card. So there's certainly a lot of different benefits to having that card.
Yeah, and I understand even the Oklahoma driver's license may have a problem at the airport security. They may not be recognized for some technicality. Maybe a tribal ID might be a good backup.
That's right. With that ID, you can go through TSA checkpoints. I've done it a couple of times myself.
The first time it happened to me, I accidentally forgot my license and said, "Oh my gosh!" He said, "Well, do you have anything else?" And I said, "Well, I have a tribal ID." He said, "That'll work." And so I said, "All right, there's sovereignty for
Right,
you."
yeah.
Okay. Well, Andrew, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming in.
I appreciate you having me.
Keep us posted. If there's something coming up there in your office that you want to share, please do so, and we'll look forward to keeping up with you.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Okay, looks like our phone interface caught us, so Stan's getting even with me here. Okay, Andrew, thanks again. We'll see you later, and we'll take a short pause here and we'll be right back with our next segment.
Who am I? Am I Indian? Just 'cause I'm a girl from the res, don't make things up about me. What if I move away? Then who am I? Some kids try meth just to escape, but then I think about my grandma, my little brother, my beadwork, my poetry, and I think, I like who I am, and I know meth is not for me.
Check out ncai.org, a message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Hear that? That's the sound of hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
Who am I? Am I Native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org, a message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio. Gary Fife, Joe Jifkidis. We have on the line with us now Sarah Adams Cornell. She's a member of the Choctaw Nation and has been working on a project to have Oklahoma City officially observe Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. But Sarah, I guess we got some bad news this time around.
We sure did. It was a tough blow to our campaign to see Indigenous Peoples Day come to Oklahoma City, and after the momentum in Anadarko, we were hopeful that this was going to be an easy win. Unfortunately, our council members were not all in favor and see it exactly the way that we do. So we were unsuccessful. The vote was 4-4, and that was kind of interesting for me to see. You have to have a majority, even though that's a tie. You have to have majority. So, we fell short this time, but there was a council member missing. Council member Meg Sawyer was not in attendance, which means that she could be that swing vote in 2 weeks because it will be reintroduced in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. Now, we are aware that other major metropolitan areas have actually made this change. Seattle and Minneapolis, both of which have substantial Native American populations and presence within those cities. Were you taking some momentum there? Were some ideas coming to your group from what you saw there?
Absolutely. We took a lot of our cues from what has been done in Seattle and Minneapolis and some of those places where they have seen success with Indigenous Peoples Day. And even our resolution, when we got started on this, I have a team, and this is super important. It's not just me. There are a whole team of Native leaders that are working together on this movement in Oklahoma City. But our team that was working specifically on the resolution, they pulled from what Seattle had passed and just pulled their resolution. What did it say? Modified it to meet our community, and so a lot of what we're doing has been inspired by these other cities.
Let's take a look at the reasons why. In the last decade or so, there's been a lot more information come out about Christopher Columbus and his voyage here and his impact on the native peoples of our hemisphere. And most of it has not been very nice. And in fact, it's been downright brutal in many cases.
Right.
We're talking enslavement and torture, and he did it to all sexes and ages there. What was it then? What about that history kind of made you want to make this change?
Well, I think it's two-part. Initially, when I was growing up, we weren't taught in school about any of the atrocities that happened while Columbus made these 4 voyages back and forth, and while he was governor of that area. We only heard about that discovery. He discovered America, even though there were millions of people already here.
Right. The little song that we were taught. What is it? 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That thing.
Exactly. That kind of sums up what we learned, and the I think we all learned the ship names and where he came. And that somehow this fairy tale that there was peace in that, and there was initially on the side of Indigenous people, and you'll see that this information is readily available online anytime anybody wants to look it up. But in his journal, he even talks about how peaceful and loving and handsome and giving the Indigenous people were when he encountered them, and that they would, that with 50 men he could subdue them, and these were his first thoughts. So I think the mentality of Columbus is something that we don't address a lot.
We're not talking about any fantasies or anything like this. These kinds of things were actually documented by men who were on those voyages, and I understand at least one of them was a priest.
That's right. Bartolome, there were several people, actually. There were lots of documentation. There was actually just something that came out in 2006 that showed this report that was done while Columbus was, I think many people, I don't know, Columbus was charged and taken away in chains back to Spain at some point for these crimes against, what was happening. People were reporting what was happening. So he was taken back. Unfortunately, they heard about, some of the wealth that could be brought through slave trade, and so they let him go back. But during that time, people were coming to the person in charge and saying, look, all of these things are happening. It's not okay. They documented it, and then these reports have been surfacing, and in 2006 they kind of released this big. So all the time we're learning about more that's happening, which I think makes it our obligation to then rectify this information. And I was never taught that in school. I was never taught the Indigenous perspective.
No. We were always, showing the land rush and how great that was, but as I always I have to say, they didn't talk about whose land they were running over and that kind of thing.
And they didn't talk about the atrocities and the enslavement and the fact that he started the transatlantic slave trade and selling children for sex and, the mutilation and all of the horrors that make up his reign.
When I think of this subject, I have to think of that movie Apocalypto, right at the end of the flick, where this young warrior has been chased on this horrendous attempt to kill him through the jungles, and he's got enemy warriors throwing spears and arrows and things. And right at the end, when you think things couldn't get any worse, they run out onto the beach and are stopped dead in their tracks as they look out. And what they see are these ships and a boatload of soldiers and a priest coming straight at them. And you think, oh my God, oh no. Yes, it can get a lot worse, and I guess it
right.
Well, that kind of being aside, what sort of opposition did you run into? I know, let's face it, Oklahoma is an incredibly conservative state and doesn't like, anybody making waves and things like this. But what were people telling you about being in opposition to this move?
Sure. Well, the number one thing we've seen is just miseducation about the facts, what's happening. And I think a coupling, another thing that has been stopping us a lot is just defensive attitudes about this change. We're seeing a lot of people who are non-native get defensive about the fact that we want to change this, and somehow they're seeing it as an affront. And that blame is certainly, we're not about blaming anyone or about taking away from anything. So these conservative ideas about, this isn't reflective of our great nation, that kind of blind patriotism, that we don't want to look at this past because it isn't pleasant and it doesn't reflect the values that we hold dear today. And for some people, that's very troubling, that they don't want to, and somehow bringing about Indigenous Peoples Day, they think somehow admits that our country isn't great. And I think it's the exact opposite. I think a great country recognizes its history in a truthful way and then offers justice when we can. And I think this is one of those opportunities to do that.
Well, I have to agree with you. I personally think blind patriotism is a dangerous thing. And I know that there are going to be people who may be upset by hearing that, but, I'm not talking about American values, which we've all, lived with, but, just cutting off your mind and saying this is the way it is and this is the way it's going to be and this is the way it'll forever be, and you can't make me change my mind even with the truth or facts or anything like that. So just forget it and get away from it. And we've seen other nations around the world in the past that followed a blind patriotic route and see what happened there.
Exactly, and they look foolish for it. It makes them look foolish, in my opinion.
Well, and of course we look at World War II and think of how destructive that was. But we don't need to go there. I don't think.
It's a whole other show.
yeah, maybe we'll do something about that. Who knows? But as we have been looking at this issue, I understand there's a bright spot in this whole discussion coming from the students at the University of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. It is so exciting, and what we've seen not just at the University of Oklahoma, but other places. This momentum and what we're doing in Oklahoma City is sparking other groups to rally around this. In their area in Oklahoma, we saw a young man, Blue Haas, who is asking the Bartlesville Public Schools to change the name. And we saw, at OU right now, they're in the process, Indigenize OU, which is a group on campus of Native students, have petitioned, and they actually took, and we're all communicating with each other, which is great.
Yeah.
They've taken our resolution and tailored it to meet the needs of their, campus community, and are asking their student government to pass, Indigenous Peoples Day in lieu of Columbus Day. They've secured 2 of the 3 rounds, I understand, that they have to go through: their student senate and then their House, and I believe that it has to be approved by their executive branch before it will go before Boren for kind of final sign-off. But they're and it's passing unanimously. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? It speaks volumes about this next generation and our youth and where they stand on this issue.
Well, that's so wonderful to hear. I mean, over the last year or so, some of the things we've heard about students doing have not been very nice. I'm thinking of that fraternity thing and a couple of other related sorts of things. But they've kind of stepped up to the plate here, and for me, that helps recognize and sort of legitimize the state license plates where it says Native America. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
It's got to go further than just a slogan. And,
absolutely.
And the thing that I always keep in mind is that Oklahoma is so different from other places that have native populations. There are really no reservations here, as South Dakota or Arizona or even California. And speaking of which, they just made somebody a saint who was, I understand, responsible for a lot of the slavery and genocide to those peoples out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's
as lots of injustices.
Yeah, a lot of that's another show.
We need to address. Absolutely.
Yeah. But it, I think, is a good sign. We're seeing a final resolution to this museum thing in Oklahoma City. There. For the Indian people that you're in contact with, both young and old, are they feeling better about a lot of things, about the climate, so to speak, do you think?
I think, yeah, I really think that the fact that this is happening right now speaks to the climate of our Indigenous people, our Native people here in Oklahoma, that we're seeing opportunity. And the way this kind of all came about, how this started here in Oklahoma City, well, first, it's something that's been on my radar for a long time. It's something that I've wanted to work on for a long time. But as you know, timing is everything. And I saw through the media, a really wonderful media outlet, Red Dirt Report, had been publishing some articles about, why are we still celebrating Columbus Day here in Oklahoma? Why is that happening? And we had got word through a friend, Francis Danger, that possibly Councilman Steed's office was interested in supporting an effort like this. And once I kind of saw those two things happen, I thought, this is the time. It's right now we have to move. And within a few weeks, we organized a group, and organization is one of my that's one thing that I think is very important to a movement, is making sure that you've got great people working on a project. And that's what we did. We organized quickly to get it on the docket before, hoping that before Columbus Day we would see this change. Unfortunately, the next meeting is the day after Columbus Day.
Yeah.
So it won't happen this year. but possibly it can happen in 2 weeks right after. So we'll celebrate it next year.
So we can't do it retroactively there.
I wish. That's a great idea.
Guess what? Yesterday was not Columbus Day, so forget it.
That's right.
All you
Surprise.
people who took the day off, go back to work. Speaking
right.
of which, here at the Mvskoke Nation, Columbus Day is not celebrated. Our employees will be working that day, but later on take a day off called Indigenous Peoples Day. Do you see this trend happening? And I know Oklahoma City seems to be quite supportive of this sort of thing. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that there are a lot of, our tribal nations certainly lead the charge, and and I think I'm so glad to know that there's so many of our tribes who have already designated this day as, Indigenous Peoples Day or Native American Day, and I think they celebrate even tribally their group as well, whatever tribe that is. And so I'm super, glad that that's happening. So, it helps us. It only helps us, and we're stronger in numbers. So, our next effort will also be to try to contact those tribes and have them join our effort and lend their support.
Well, tell me about one thing that you've been involved with that has been successful, and what do we hear afterwards? And that's the Capitol Hill High School name.
Right.
The mascot name was the R word, and it was changed, and of course there was quite a fuss over that. What's been happening since then? Has it calmed down? Have people made the transition to a different mascot and this kind of thing? Has it settled down?
We're seeing a lot more that the community and the school are embracing this new mascot. It was definitely a process, and it continues to be a process, but I was honored to be a part of the group to help get that changed, and also to be a part of the group that helped find a new mascot for their school, something that was more reflective of the community that they are now. It was a good process, but it's, change is hard. The biggest group that we saw opposing this was their alumni. And we understand that, sometimes those high school years are the glory days, and we have an emotional attachment to that sort of thing, but a mascot isn't that time. We can't take that away. This issue is bigger than that, and we have to understand that these mascots and these days, these small ways that were minimized, all contribute to these things that happen to Indigenous people. So the dropout rates, the suicide rates, the high poverty, addiction, all of these things are related. And if we can change some of these things, mascots seem like an easy thing to me. We can change that. Columbus Day, we can change that. Things like generational trauma, much harder to tackle. We're doing that. We're talking about it, and we're trying to get there. But this seems like an easy thing to try to accomplish first.
I remember your comment there. High school was glory days. Mine weren't. It was a rough time for me, and not really that I can think of, because I was one of the few Native kids in mostly white school. It's that never really came up, I don't think. But the usual high school kind of things that we run into. But in looking at the mascot name kind of issue, these things change. As we get a little more educated and less ignorant and hard-headed, perhaps, these things change. There's this big flap over the football team in the nation's capital, and
yes.
that one. But come on, folks. There have been occasions when the teams have just pulled up stakes and ran to another city. And changed their name and logos and all kinds. It happens. And the world does not come to an end. But there are so many issues involved in that discussion that, as we say, is another show. And probably will be at some point. Well, where do you go from here? Is it all over? You've got something coming up where you're going to relaunch your campaign again?
Absolutely. We don't give up. We're Indigenous people. We've seen harder things happen. We're in this for the long haul, and that's what we're doing right now. We're regrouping. We're looking at our strategy. We're going to reach out to our council members again, and we'll be there in 2 weeks on the 13th. So we really, really, really need, if there's anybody out there who wants to lend support to this movement, we really need to connect with Meg Sawyer's, Councilwoman Meg Sawyer's office. Let her know that you want to see Indigenous Peoples Day happen in Oklahoma City. Call her office, send her an email. If you go to okc.gov, you can get the email and the phone number. And we have to press hard because she is the only person who wasn't present. She's the swing vote. If she votes to approve it and everybody else maintains, this will happen. And also showing up to the meeting on the 13th. It's from 8:30 to noon. I know it's a long time and then in the middle of the day, but it's so important to our community. So we need to fill that chamber with Native people.
Great. All right, well, Sarah Adams Cornell, thank you so much for chatting with me this morning and kind of filling us in on where this issue has been and where it's going. So good luck with your campaign there.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate the opportunity to be on today.
Well, yeah. All right. We'll take a short pause here, and we're going to get our old buddy Jason Salsman on the horn, and we'll be right back with more Mvskoke Radio. So,
who am I? Am I Native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Jason, Stongo. Jason, it's Stongo.
Hey, Stongo, Gary, how are you, sir?
Hitting my head.
Great, that sounds good.
Now, I understand you and your crew are still busy working up the next program here.
Native cutting the show right now, actually.
Native News Today. Okay,
yes,
well,
you
great. Well, why don't you give us a quick preview? What have you got lined up for this week?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked because we got a really neat show this week. We're going to take you into the life of the Native Karate Kid, as we're calling him. Mr. Jer Harjo. He's an 8-year-old from Edmond, Oklahoma, and he's actually the state champion in Taekwondo. Actually went to the Nationals in Nebraska recently and placed, I think, first or second there. So the kid is absolutely fantastic in Taekwondo. He does lots of other things too, but just to give you a rundown on this guy, his father is actually very successful and does some wonderful things in Native business as well. But Jer's 8, he's Mvskoke Creek, goes to Heritage Elementary, as I said there in Edwin. He's 4.0 student, Taekwondo, he's a first-degree black belt. He plays football, baseball, basketball, and he's a junior open water scuba diver. I mean, this guy just gets after it at a young age, does a fantastic job. So it was really cool to go up and profile Jer and talk with his father, and he's even doing some martial arts weaponry training with bow and then bokin and the tambos. And Gary, I know you probably know a little bit more about that kind of stuff than I do because you like that stuff like that a little bit. But yeah, it's really neat to go, and that's what I love about my job and being able to tell these stories on Native News Today, is to be able to go out and do things and find these people and these little pockets and these stories out there that not everybody knows, and it's a great thrill for me. So that's coming up, as well as a new master's program at the University of Oklahoma. Gary, it's very simple. It's taught online. You can get it done in about 20 months if you want to, but it's a master's professors of Indian law, and you don't even have to have a prerequisite of a law degree or any formal legal training to go through this program. And what they really want is to see lots of tribal officials, CEOs of tribes, people working with tribes, to really want to reach out to them, to go through these programs so that when they're dealing with state organizations, national organizations, things where, the waters, the legal waters could get a little muddy sometimes working with Native American tribes, that, an understanding can exist on each side so we can get through those things, and maybe those things don't even arise a little more when we all know kind of what the laws are. So,
you mentioned the weaponry there, and I have had a lot of friends who are further into it than I ever ventured, and we're talking about samurai sword and nunchucks and things like that. But, to be quite honest, most of the weapons I ever ran across were like a pool cue or a tire iron, big old handy rock or something like that.
I was going to say, it sounds like your old bar fighting days there.
Yeah, I've been through a few of those, and I was actually a bouncer for a while.
Yeah,
so
right, hey.
No future in that kind of thing. But,
I can believe it, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but, I used to tease some of my Plains tribe guys, they'd be riding across the prairie waving a pool cue.
and the kids actually, the Plains tribe coming up there, the kids actually in the Comanche Man Dance Society too. So, I mean, he's got a whole resume full here. It's really neat though to see that, and like I said, we'll have that. We'll have the master's program. You can find out a little bit more about that master's program at OU. We'll be highlighting some of the Tulsa State Fair and the Mvskoke Creek Nation's partnership with that over these last few years. So lots of things to look forward to this week's episode of Native News Today. We like to think it's pretty good every week, but I tell you what, it's going to be a pretty good one this weekend.
Well, it sounds like it. The fair is always, big, one of the big highlights of the year.
Sure.
We've got a powwow going on there that we're taking part in, which is always, a wonderful time for our people to get out and exhibit the pride and culture there. Your camera's going to be wandering around a lot. You're going to get on the tilt-a-whirl or the Ferris wheel?
Camera will be wandering around a lot. I don't know yet because I found out something this last couple years, Gary. I'm old now. My daughter's like, Dad, let's go jump in that. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then I get off and I'm like, I think I'm going to have to go throw up now. So it's like, I don't know if like the fluid in my ears is getting crazy on me or what's going on, but I think I'm just getting a little bit up there in age. I call it seasoned. I'm getting a little more seasoned. I don't like to say old, but we'll be doing as much as we can that our health will allow us. I'm sure that we'll get to the corn dog section. There might be some Indian taco partaking. I'm not sure about that yet, but I'm more of I go now for the I go for the food now. It's kind of sad to say, but that's kind of what I like to do.
Well, seasonings and greetings.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Now, don't you be talking about old. Yours truly are just qualified for Social Security. So.
Oh, man, did you get the AARP card finally?
No, I got the Social Security card there.
Okay, well, do they still give that out?
Oh, yeah.
That was a thing of the past.
And I was thinking that's probably a pretty good thing to have in case.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might be the last one, so hold on to that.
Yeah. Medicare. So you flash a couple of cards out there to take care of my increasing health problems there.
Yeah, right. Well, you can get half off at the Chinese buffet now, too, so I won't complain too much.
Yeah, that's one of the funny things that I begin to appreciate is all the senior discounts.
Oh, God, I can't wait.
Some little kid at a Taco Bell the other day said, "Oh, you qualify for the senior discount. Is that correct?"
You wanted to wring his neck, didn't you?
I think, oh my God, do I look that old?
Yeah, man, no way. I got to go throw a hat on or something.
Okay. Well, other things that our tribe is keeping both you and I busy, of course, we're in the midst of an election season. We've kind of pared down the slate of candidates there. We've got a couple of choices for principal chief and other council people. Will your program be doing anything special there?
Well, we're looking to I don't want to say for sure because you know how things change with schedules and getting access and things like that, but we are looking to have both candidates for principal chief, now that we have whittled it down to two, on the program. with me and just kind of having them right there together. So I think that would be cool, and would be able to get them, to talking about some pertinent subjects, and certainly some subjects that have come up with us that, would be, I think would be useful to have them address for our citizens and our viewers.
Sure.
There's a lot of things going on.
We're doing that too, by the way. I just broke the ice for a request to the chief to come to this show and do
great
debate with Mr. Floyd.
Oh, have they both accepted?
No, neither have accepted yet, and I haven't really even asked the other candidate yet until I hear.
Hopefully, he's a loyal listener to Mvskoke Radio, and he might call you before you have to call him.
That's just fine, but either way, we would love to get it done and let him go head-to-head here on Mvskoke Radio.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, now I understand the National Council. Of course, we were there when the discussions came up, but had some incredible developments for us in our business here.
Right, absolutely. I think that it's a very historic day on Saturday.
Free press.
When free press and at the tribe, and that's something that we've never had, and you could say that. Along with everything, you can look at anything, Gary, and especially legislation, and pick it apart and say this is a little, this is a con, this is a pro, this is a con, and sometimes those things can get very even. Having said that, you never ever want to delay something like this more than it's already been delayed. I think this is something that, from the tribe's perspective, should have been done many, many years ago. We're a little bit behind the times to be getting a free press in 2015. There are things in there where we have to clear some stuff up, but at the same time, let's go ahead, let's get it passed, let's get moving in the right direction, and then we'll work on some of the particulars and the parameters that get it to where it absolutely needs to be to fit our unique situation here at Creek Nation.
Well, now that we've both stuck our necks out here, this issue has been one that's been around Indian America, Native America for decades. Even as a extremely young man, I was working in Washington, D.C. in various Native organizations, and one of them was NCAI, National Congress of American Indians. And I remember at one of the national conventions where a Pueblo elder stood up and it says, we must find a mechanism to inform our people in a fair and balanced fashion. We must find a way to let them know. And, being a little punk kid at the time, I thought it was not my place to jump up. But my thoughts and feelings were, well, you've got one. You have media. You have the press. The Native American press is growing and getting better. Just put your faith in us and let us do our jobs, and and end all of the the things that hold us back from doing that. I mean, answer the questions, talk to us.
Well, and in my commentary as well, I'm certainly not. I certainly don't have the experience that you have, and I wouldn't at all call myself an expert in these kinds of happenings. But I will say this, that I think a lot of misconception exists as far as like the media is the bad guy.
Oh, absolutely.
And whenever we get something like this on the table, it's just like we're chomping at the bit to let the dogs loose. And that could not be further from the truth. What this does is it keeps other media organizations that don't know, for lack of a better term, diddly squat about how the tribe works or operates from reporting on us. Because if you have the Tulsa World, let's just use them as an example. If you have the Tulsa World whose sole purpose is to make a dollar selling a paper, they can definitely slant news, certainly. And I'm not going to here to slander and throw the Tulsa World under the bus. What I'm saying is that we don't have that agenda. The only agenda we have is to our citizens, to the citizens of the Mvskoke Creek Nation through the newspaper. Now, I'm saying that as a citizen because I don't work on the paper, I'm just in the media, but what I'm saying is the citizens, to get them the pertinent, correct information from a source, the media, that knows this tribe better than anyone, which would be the Mvskoke Nation News and the staff that their whole life is here at the tribe, covering the tribe, knowing the departments. They're tasked with knowing legislation. They're tasked with knowing legal processes. They're tasked with knowing tribal procedure, tribal budgeting, things like that. So I put my faith a lot more in the people that know exactly how this tribe operates to get a story right. Because we've seen outside media agencies write stories on the tribe that aren't fully accurate. They don't have the right, context. They have things in there that make you go, boy, they really, it's maybe not lazy reporting. It may just be, and I don't use the word ignorant as a negative. I use it as, just simply don't know how the tribe works. It may be from an ignorant standpoint to where you just do not know what you're writing about, so to speak. So I think this is a good thing because, you get away from that. You can really get to some people that their job is to know exactly how this tribe operates and to report on it fairly accurately and really well to the citizens so that there's no misunderstanding, there's no rumors, there's no, oh, this is going to do that. How many times, Gary, do we hear, oh, they've done this and they've done that up there at these little gossip sites where you don't have to put your name or anything like that. They just throw stuff out there. And if we had a press that could, accurately report the whole side of everything, it could really clear up a lot of that.
Well, that's what we are after. I mean, I've spent a whole career in this business, and too many times we have been seen as the enemy just because we're going to ask some tough questions. But we're not on some kind of vendetta. No. I think that it's important for everyone who a member of this tribe, who works for this tribe, helps lead this tribe, that we're just trying to serve our citizens, and they deserve no less than the best, and that's
and I think that's the only goal,
fair,
and that's what it boils down to.
Fair and balanced reporting, and if it ends up with someone kind of looking a little hinky, then well, so be it.
The old saying, "Don't kill the messenger."
Right.
I think that really applies.
Okay, well, Jason, real quick, if folks want to tune into your show again, where do they find you?
Well, they got several outlets, Gary. You can watch us every Saturday at 1 on CW19 in the Tulsa area. If you're out west and you are listening to Mvskoke Radio from some of our Oklahoma City metro areas, KSBI 52 on Sundays at noon. And if you're out of the area totally and can't access it on either television station, you can always catch it on our online channel. Go to YouTube, search Native News Today. You can get an entire listing of all of our episodes and productions. Okay, well, thanks, Jason. We'll be working together again tight. I got to split a few announcements here we got to share. So. Oh, yeah, get to the news. Thanks a lot, Gary. You bet. Inga. Later. Mm-hmm. Okay, speaking of which, we have during the Tulsa State Fair, the Intertribal Powwow on October 3rd. That's there at the Fairgrounds Central Lawn. The usual powwow kinds of dances and things going on. So go down and check it out. While you're at the fair, go to the powwow too. Movies in the Dome coming up October 22nd at 6:30 p.m. in the Mvskoke Dome. So you can see Monsters Incorporated, free admission, and concessions will be available. So you want to check that one out. Okay, coming up on Saturday, October 24th, the Council Oaks ceremony in downtown Tulsa. You want to check that out at the Creek Nation Council Council Oak Park, 1750 South Cheyenne there in Tulsa. It's always a wonderful traditional ceremony for our people. And then there will be festivities at the Tulsa Creek Indian Community there on 8611 South Union, stickball dinner and stomp dance. So you want to check that one out. Finally, the 13th annual Pink Party coming up on Wednesday, October 28th at the Mvskoke Dome. So go in there and support the effort to bring about more breast cancer awareness. Whew, that's it. I'm pretty much... You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. What up?